Hi, everyone. I'm Atul Garg, an AmeriCorps member and mediator at the Baltimore Community Mediation Center. And welcome to our Peacemaker series, where we meet individuals and community organizations that exemplify the qualities of service and volunteerism. This month, I'm excited to introduce to you Christi Green, the executive director of the St. Francis Neighborhood Center, which is an independent, community-based nonprofit that serves Baltimore's Reservoir Hill and Penn North neighborhoods, and whose mission is to end generational poverty through education. Hi, Christi. Welcome, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So SFNC was founded in 1963 and is the oldest neighborhood center in Baltimore. And there's one person, Father Tom Composto, without whom SFNC wouldn't exist today. Can you share more about Father Tom's story?
Sure. We started as a religious organization, the Jesuits through the Catholic Church. He was actually placed at St. Francis Neighborhood Center when we were located on Whitelock, just around the corner from where we are now. We're on Linden and Whitelock right now. And a couple years in, the church ran out of money, funding for the organization, and pulled him, and he refused to leave. He said the neighborhood should have consistent support, that the neighborhood center was really important, and he couldn't envision the neighborhood without it. So he actually left the priesthood over it.
Oh, wow.
And and remained there until he died in 2011. So if it wasn't for him making that commitment to Baltimore City and our neighborhoods in West Baltimore, we wouldn't be sitting here today. So we're independent now. We're not affiliated with the Catholic Church, but we do have a lot of partners throughout the city, including churches and partner organizations and other things like that. So yeah.
I mean, wasn't he known as like the Pope of Whitelock Street as well?
Yes. So so a lot of people, I hear so many stories because I personally never met him. I started in 2012 and he had passed away in 2011. And so I think about that all the time. Like, what I wish I had had the opportunity, but his presence is with us. There's no question. He had an impact on the neighborhood. Yeah, Dan Rodricks of the Baltimore Sun called him the Pope of Whitelock, and the name stuck. There's some articles on him about that, and one of our supporters actually just wrote a book about him called The Pope of Whitelock, and it's on our website. You can read it. And he would walk into the streets, and like if there's something going on, if there's drug dealing happening or something, he would say, "You're better than this. Let's talk about a different future. Let's talk about what we can do together." People either really loved him or didn't love him because he did, put it out there. He was just like, "Hey, we can do better." Riots, when Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and assassinated, he was in the streets. He was, of course, protesting his death, and was with everybody in the streets and just trying to, bring peace, but also understanding and change. It was a tough time, and it's still a tough time. So we're still here carrying his message forward of love, which is what attracted me to the organization for sure.
Okay, great. Well, actually, on that note, so Father Tom used to say that it's important to let people know they're loved no matter what. So, so how do you think his love no matter what philosophy has helped to shape SFNC's mission? And also, what are some of the programs that SFNC offers?
Sure. Well, it's funny that he said that, and because I've always said that, and I did not even know that, what his theme or philosophy or anything is when I first looked at St. Francis. Of course, I think I've mentioned this before. I saw an ad on Craigslist and, was very drawn to the organization as a grassroots, community-driven organization, and really about just taking care and supporting one another and being in community together. And I've just always so much cared for our mission. And so the programs we have are very much evolved around love, care, support, inclusion, equity. And so our biggest program is our out of school time programming, which is after school and summer for our kids, and then
Mhm.
it's holistic,
Mhm.
meaning that we include the entire family. We include human services as well as the education piece, all about ending generational poverty through
Mhm.
education and having a future.
Mhm.
We have a lot of kids and families in our neighborhood, two neighborhoods, unfortunately, that do live below the federal poverty line.
Mhm.
100% of the kids that we serve
Mhm.
do live below the federal poverty line. So
Mhm.
it's about making that change and providing opportunities and working together. And
Mhm.
so we also have a teen intern program that's part of that,
Mhm.
which we started a few years ago, but it's really growing, which is super exciting.
Mhm.
We usually have about 12 interns at a time, but last year we ended up working with close to 40 through
Mhm.
the year, which is great. And the kids just do amazing things. It's really about their voice
Mhm.
and showing them opportunities and support. So like an example would be they did a town hall.
Mhm.
They created a social justice committee,
Mhm.
and did it their own town hall, got their own panelists, and
Mhm.
chose the topic of kidnapping and human trafficking, which I
Wow.
thought was super intense for
Mhm.
teenagers, but that's what they chose, and they did a phenomenal job. So phenomenal that another group have asked them to do an expansion on that and evolve the topic even further and do a second town hall and panel.
Oh, wow.
And
Great.
yeah, and
Mhm.
then we I mean they do a lot of things, but that's one that just really sticks out to me right away. And then we do other programs, such as yoga.
Mhm.
And of course, we work with community mediation and other partners in our
Mhm.
facility. We're
Mhm.
currently going through an expansion and renovation right now. So we're going to
Mhm.
be excited to come back to the building when it's, brand new, hopefully soon.
Okay.
um, been raising money for years because the building was falling apart, our house was falling apart. It was just really important to the community to
Mhm.
design a space that the neighborhood wanted. So
Mhm.
that's what we did. The community designed the space, and so we're excited to triple our space and renovate the house that we're currently in, and
Mhm.
eventually add on hopefully event space, rec space, multipurpose space. But we'll have lots of meeting rooms so that we can continue to work with our partners and host
Mhm.
community meetings. NA and some of the neighborhood groups also use the space.
Mhm.
So we also have our annual Reservoir Hill Resource Fair and Festival,
Okay.
which community mediation is always a part of, which is
Mhm.
great. And we
Yeah.
bring in resources
Wow.
and give away backpacks with school supplies and all kinds of good things happen, music and community
Yeah.
there. So I just think the neighborhood's amazing, and we let
Yeah.
the neighborhood, when I say let, it is the community's center. So it's
Mhm.
up to the neighborhood to decide what
Mhm.
programs are important.
Mhm.
And so youth programming was the number one concern.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so we have been running successful youth programming and family holistic and inclusion programming,
Mhm.
structured the way it is as it is. Father Tom started it in 2008.
Mhm.
We've been running it forever, but
Mhm.
the Power Project and our Summer of Service excursion are the two big ones now that have been running now for 10 years, that we have external evaluation results showing that kids are improving in
Mhm.
school, their
Mhm.
behaviors improving,
Mhm.
their social emotional growth is improving.
Mhm.
Of course, math, ELA, all those good things, STEM,
Mhm.
STEAM, we do a lot of art,
Yeah.
field trips, all kinds of fun stuff. So the kids are learning karate and French right now.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, really, really, really diverse programming you have.
Yeah, it's important, I think, to give our kids the opportunities of things they want to learn, but
Mm.
also, I know we're in COVID right now,
Yeah.
trying to complement
Mhm.
what school is doing without overdoing,
Mhm.
just kind of mixing
Mhm.
it up a little bit. So
Yeah.
obviously they're online all day in school, and
Mhm.
then they're going to be online with us for
Mhm.
after school. That's a lot of online time.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we do our best to, create hybrid situations where we're delivering art kits We're delivering meals to the kids' doors actually every single day.
Okay.
So our kids are fed, our families are fed every day. And when we're in center together, they get dinner together every day and snacks. But
Nice.
what do you do when you're in the middle of a pandemic? You know, so we can talk more about all the stuff we did in the pandemic, but online learning and just keeping it fresh and having really cool incentives for the kids. Like we have attendance warriors and they get Baby Yoda gift certificates. And, you know, they love to be recognized for those good things that they're doing in the program.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like a lot of fun. I think I want to stop by once you reopen.
I know that's the part I miss, like probably the most right now is just given, you know, just us being all together. You can be together to some degree on a Zoom call, but you know, people get Zoom fatigue and online fatigue and things like that. Being community together is important, and we're really looking forward to that. Just all the smiles and hugs of the kids would be great.
All right, great. So actually, in terms of talking about the pandemic, you know, we all know that it's had a profound impact on the ability of nonprofits to continue serving their clients as they have in the past. And when we spoke earlier, I know you described SFNC as small but mighty. And so how did the pandemic initially affect SFNC's work? And what's it like now, a year later?
Wow, that's a big question. Yeah. So
that's why I asked it.
Well, I think I'm excited to say that we acted quickly.
Yeah.
So as soon as within 10 days of schools closing last March of 2020, right? Or, every one of our kids was given a computer loaned by us from our computer lab. Well, obviously we didn't have enough computers. So we instantly went on Amazon and created a wish list and started working with another partner called Digital Equity and doing everything we could to get a computer in everyone's home. So within 10 days, every one of our kids had a computer.
Okay.
We were already working on digital inclusion and digital equity. That was something we already thought was important. So we actually, all but 6 of our families already had the internet in their home. Okay. And we were a Comcast Internet Essentials partner. So it was really important to us to make sure they already had internet. And we're taking advantage of the $9.99 a month that was available then. So we got the last 6 families on internet, and we were up and running online classes just like that. So what's really cool is the kids about a year prior to that were complaining about our old computers and, you know, learning out of a binder and when are we going to get in the 21st century? And so we upgraded to a program called iReady, which Baltimore City Public Schools use. It's an online customized education program for each child that works on math and English language arts. And we had switched to that already. So we, without knowing it, by listening to the kids actually, we were already ready without realizing it. So that quick turnaround in that 10 days, we just made the adjustment. And then we started an emergency fund, which we already had one, but it had very little funding in it. So what we did is we just basically expanded upon it for COVID. And that ended up, I think the hardest part for my heart on all of this is it had an 1,800% increase in requests within the first 30 days of 45 days of the pandemic. So we had families that were losing jobs, losing ability to get to food, lack of transportation, lack of medical supplies. A family member would get sick and, you know, you couldn't quarantine the whole house. The next thing you know, the whole house is sick. They can't get groceries. So we ended up delivering over 70,000, distributing and delivering over 70,000 pounds of food, including skids of chicken, like go figure, like Holly Farm showed up with a refrigerated truck.
Yeah.
And we partnered with Maryland Food Bank and Baltimore City and For My City and just all kinds of good groups that were working on getting food distributed to especially those most vulnerable. And so that happened to be our kids and our families in our community. So all of our kids were and families were getting food, and we even had volunteers step up over the holidays and put together recipe boxes with all the ingredients.
Oh, nice.
And gave the staff a break, and they took care and put them together and delivered them and got them to all of our families so that we didn't worry about it over the, our families over the holidays. We flipped it up, and we even just split up all of our families among all the staff. And we were doing daily and weekly check-ins with every one of, just making sure, are you okay? What do you need? What's going on? Do you need somebody to talk to? And then if we didn't do the service, which we can't all do everything, right? We would refer to one of many of our great partners, whether it was mental health or physical health or, a group like yours, we would refer so that we would make sure that even if we couldn't provide the service, we could connect to a good resource or referral or something they might need. So it was a lot, and we had a lot of like multi-generations in one household. So we were trying to protect children through elderly grandparents, aunts and uncles in small spaces sometimes, which was really tough. So just trying to get involved in advance, with trying to make sure no one lost their house or lost power, even though there were things in place that weren't supposed to let that happen. Our most vulnerable residents sometimes get, that doesn't always work. So we stepped in as an advocate, helped in those situations, or connected with groups that helped with utilities and different things like that. So with our emergency fund, we never directly gave anyone cash or money. What we did is we would pay the mortgage, or we would go to the grocery and get the baby formula that they couldn't find. And if you've got a baby, you can't be hopping around different stores trying to find everything that you need. It's just too difficult, especially if transportation's an issue also. We also had a lot of families and do some job training and take advantage of our scholarship opportunity during that time. So if they were out of work, they got certifications, maybe with SafeServe or some other opportunities. So it was about just keeping us moving forward. And I think that was our theme, is the year of the pivot, is if we couldn't push forward one way anymore, we would just turn and look at other opportunities. What could we do? And we would pivot. It was not an option for us ever to shut down or to stop serving or to stop being in touch with our families. It was never an option. So even when we weren't certain of funding, we continued to serve, even though we weren't sure like we would get the grant money that was for that program. We just were like, you know what, we got to make it work. We can't stop. So we did it. And so we're all very tired.
I mean, it's pretty amazing in the span of a year. It sounds like you adapted pretty well, and you were able to expand, like you talked about the scholarships and the education, and even that last piece, it kind of fulfills your mission of ending generational poverty through education. So some additional good things have actually come out of having to change it up at the last minute.
It did. And, really a lot of people supported the scholarship fund and the emergency fund. So even though we're not known for mass food distribution, we stepped it up, we made it happen. And with our partners and supporters, it happened. But yeah, I think I literally sat in my chair right here 16 hours a day, just looking for funding, making sure we were operating, making sure our families were okay. And then all of a sudden it occurred to me that I actually like need to take care of myself too.
Self-care, really?
Right? So the
I didn't
doctor's
think I
like,
didn't think that was a part of nonprofit work.
right, right. So now as we're coming out of recovering, you know, I think that's a big part of our staff is just taking an inward look, you know, making sure we're all okay, making sure that we can continue to be healthy so we can serve. And, you know, knowing that it's going to be a little different now. Things are going to be different. Even once we're back in the new building, you know, you have to budget now for equipment to be safe and sanitize and clean and secure. When you're viewed as the safe place to be, it's got to be, you know, we don't, you know, kids can be germ friendly.
That's a nice way of putting it.
And, you know, we've got to be able to budget now for things like Zoom, you know, where if you're having a community meeting, you might need a lot of people to be able to get on, and it can't be the free, you know, few people. It's got to, you've got to be able to have a community meeting on Zoom. And so there's different like budgetary needs, there's just different adjustments that everybody's going to have to make. And, you know, change can be good, but change is hard. And, you know, I'll be happy when the pandemic's over, but I just know, I think we all know that there's going to be some recovery and some issues that we're just going to have to, that are going to have to change moving forward. Which aren't all bad, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. Well, and so let's focus on like once the pandemic's over, you know, it looks like it's in sight. And so what are some of the things you're looking forward to being able to do again? I'm sure, you know, being able to hug a kid or something is probably like number one on your list, right?
Number one, like seeing their smiles in person, you know, getting that energy from the kids and families are just, you know, you can get so much over the internet, but just being able to be together. Our new facility will be opening in the fall, so we're super excited to be able to serve more kids and have more meetings and community meetings and you know, different things going on there. So I miss the activity. Like I used to sit in front of the center when I was looking to work at St. Francis Neighborhood Center. I remember parking my car and just watching people running in and out of the building, because I thought it was so cool that it was their building. It was the community's building. Like kids were so comfortable, people were comfortable. It was just like, I was sitting there like, I want to be a part of this. Like this is important. And I miss that, you know, just watching the activity and the interactions and, you know, so I'm excited for that. Our programs will continue as they are. We just now will be able to be in person. And we are planning this summer, we're still going to have our summer youth program. We did last year too, as a hybrid. You know, we'll do the field trips again. So we'll be able to still do that. We'll still have some online learning going on because we're not going to have our facility yet and ready, but it'll be nice to just, you know, be able to take 10 kids at a time is probably what we're going to do. If we can take more, we will. We've been kind of limiting it, you know, for safety purposes, but for pandemic purposes. But if we can take, you know, 100 kids on a field trip at a time, we will certainly do that this summer. But for now, you know, we'll take 10 kids a day to a field trip, and the next day another 10, and next day another 10, just so they all get an experience at least every other week to get out and about, you know, with each other. So
and that's the summer excursion program, is that right?
It is. So we it's an 9-hour a day intense learning program to prevent summer learning loss. Well, as we know, learning has been pretty crazy this last year and a half, or you know, so it'll be keeping the kids engaged, keeping them learning. And they usually, well, we always do a service learning project for the city, for the community. So the kids will be, you know, very much engaged with what they choose as a service project.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So I've seen everything from, we're going to clean up trash every week in the neighborhood to we're going to go to a homeless shelter and we're going to serve sandwiches. It's been a combination. We've done a little soup kitchen before, which I think is amazing that some of our kids are homeless or have been homeless or in a poverty situation, and they're empowered to help others and come up with creative ideas to do that. And so making Baltimore a better place is part of our summer program. So the kids will hopefully not only stay on top of their English and math and, STEM, and, we always add art and health, and yoga is really important for us. Just helping our kids handle stress and anger and relax and be healthy. Whether it's cooking or exercise, that's always a big part. Social emotional learning, character building, all are important for us, not just in the summer, but also year round in our after school too.
Okay. All right. So I actually have a question about one of the programs, because I know earlier you had mentioned that it was like a teen intern program. Is that the same thing as the high school internship program, or is that different? Okay, it's the same thing. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So it sounds like one of the projects you mentioned about the sex trafficking, it's very much about their focus on making their community a better place, right? It's not like math, science, or something like that. I mean, they get that in school, but essentially you're also trying to make sure that they understand that there's a mission of making Baltimore a better place to live.
100%. We have like the kids, choosing human trafficking as a topic. I was very curious about that. Like, why would the kids, because at the time, George Floyd had just been murdered. And, I was thinking they would pick Black Lives Matter. That was just my assumption, like something with equity or something with social change, social justice change. And they picked human trafficking. And so I said to them, I said, help me learn. Help me learn why did you choose this? And they actually said they had kids disappearing in school, that not a lot of people talked about it, that the visibility was low, and that they viewed it as a modern day form of slavery, which it is. And they felt it was really important to bring awareness to the issue. One of the things they discovered that I had no idea, for example, is that the state of Maryland does not have any laws in effect to protect a victim of human trafficking. They actually can be prosecuted for prostitution, even though they were forced. So like they discovered that, and they had a great panel they had a state representative, they had someone from our partner organization, SAFE, which counsels and does legal representation of people who've been in that situation. We had a kidnapped victim, and we had a retired FBI agent, and they did that. They got those speakers, and they had the whole thing planned out. So they're getting ready to do a second one where they want to expand and evolve, and they want to look specifically at what COVID did to this issue. Did it increase? Did it decrease? What are we seeing? And I honestly don't know, right? I mean, it's a great discussion to have. And they had one goal for the first one, was just to bring awareness and visibility to the issue. And it worked, because now they're going to have a second one by request. And they have, so it's amazing. But our interns, they're high school students that live in the usually 21217 zip code, which is Penn North, Reservoir Hill area, West Baltimore area. And they get paid. And then they also do volunteer work. They help teach in the classroom. They do a lot of mentoring of peers and the younger students. And most of them have been students in our Power Project or in the summer service excursion.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're graduating to like a paid position. Yeah.
That seems like a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah. So even though they have to go through like the whole interview process, not everybody can be selected because obviously funding and all of that good stuff. But they we run it in cohorts. So by the course of the year, usually right around 40 kids a year, teenagers are able to participate in that program. And then hopefully the idea is that they then can move on to either college or another job or some kind of career development, because we're very big on job, career, college prep.
Yeah.
And we had a great mentorship program work out with a group called Rowdy Orbit and Elevate Baltimore. The CEO and founder of those organizations was installing mesh Wi-Fi into underserved neighborhoods during COVID so that those who couldn't afford Wi-Fi could get it for free. He actually mentored some of our kids in our internship program. Then they got trained and he ended up hiring them to do this.
Oh, wow, great.
And they're still in school, high school, and they're making like $17 an hour.
Wow.
Doing this huge Baltimore, something very needed for Baltimore City. And they're getting on the job training and potentially a career from it. Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. So they got income coming in, they feel a sense of purpose, and it's training that will help them in the long term if they choose to stay doing that or expand into some other area.
Yes, and there's other, like Elevate Baltimore is working on like renewable energy projects. And I mean, the kids are learning about that. I mean, there's just so many cool things. And we have lots of success stories of our kids, but one that sticks with me always is Emmanuel, who started with us when he was 8 years old. Was shy, was bullied in school, hid under the table when we got him. Took him a couple weeks to open up and come out, but we just were that safe place for him to be. Now, he went through our entire program. He went through our internship program. We got him a mentor with a writer from the New York Times and the Washington Post. And he decided he wanted to be a writer and a director. He ended up getting accepted in Baltimore School for the Arts in their first ever writing program. And he is a senior, and we just found out he had been accepted at Columbia as well as some other really awesome colleges, and he is on fire. It's great.
Did you ever think when you met him years ago, like, this kid's gonna end up at Columbia and be a writer or wherever he chooses to go?
I mean, I think he's gonna be like big time Hollywood. He's amazing, and his family's amazing, and his siblings are still in our program. His mom is actually getting ready to join our board of directors.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Just really great families. They're my families. They're like, they're my families, I'm their family, like we're family. And we just work together, and it's just amazing. I just have so much respect and love and support and care and for all of them, and just happy that they've allowed me to come in their lives and serve. It's just been fantastic. And like one of our parents, I met her 10 years ago. She had all of her kids go through the program. Her last son, two sons in to go, but they're in the intern program now. And then we ended up hiring her, and she's our parent liaison coordinator, and she's the parent and staff person that helps discover resources, helps check in and make sure parents and families and kids are okay, does home visits. And we've done a lot of virtual home visits over COVID, which sometimes works out better, for that, because then you can just jump right in and see each other in your house and have a conversation, and without actually physically having to go inside, which is you can't really do with COVID anyway. So yeah, it worked out. So she's been involved for so long, and she's just watched the program for years. She says, like, this is my family. This is, we just help each other and work together. And we have another intern that's in school to be a doctor right now.
Oh, wow. Great.
She got our college scholarship last year, and she decided she wants to do dermatology, but she wants to do it and possibly like surgery, plastic surgeon type of thing, but in the emergency room.
Oh, wow.
For people who've been exposed to trauma that need immediate support, and she wants to be their support in that way. So she wants to be a surgeon in the ER. So I mean,
are you gonna cry?
Yes. The kids are so great, and I mean, it's hard. Every story is different. Every child's different. Every family's different. Every circumstance. I could tell story after story, but I think what's just really important is that there's opportunity, care, love, and support here, and that's what it's about. We don't do anything for anyone. It's we provide what the community has asked for. As far as I just fundraise like a crazy person when they say they want youth programming. We provide the youth programming, but the choice is theirs on attending and taking advantage of it, and wanting to be a part of it. And so what we're doing is working. And I would love to someday see St. Francis neighborhood centers all over the city, because kids' grades are going up, like things are happening, incomes rising in the households, it's just some good things are going on, opportunities are there, and it's exciting times, even in the middle of crazy pandemics and stuff like that.
Well, I think if you had centers all over the city, I'm sure Father Tom would be really proud, like to see that.
Yeah. I would love, I mean, I think it's working. We would love to share what we are doing. And honestly, it's community driven. So every community would drive, and then we would just make it happen, support each other and push forward, and just keep, programs going. And that's why I believe that's why we're successful is yes, I'm here, I'm the executive director, but I just think the center is the conduit. It's just, it's there to, say, hey, we're here for each other. And that's how it works.
Absolutely.
We keep our ear to the ground, we're listening, and I can honestly say I have never created a single program or done anything that hasn't had the community behind it, that hasn't put it forward to say, I'm concerned about our youth. I'm concerned about our youth on the streets. I'm concerned. Okay, let's see what we can do. And a lot of people didn't think we could, have a capital campaign like like we talked about, small but mighty. We're a house on a corner in West Baltimore running programs. A lot of people didn't think that it was possible for us to triple our size and be able to have a state-of-the-art smart building and smart community. And guess what? We're doing it. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
It is. Well, and so you had talked briefly about it, but like you said, SFNC expanding in a pretty major way, which again is going to allow you to serve more kids and families. So can you talk a little bit more about those expansion plans? I think the first phase is supposed to be completed in the fall.
Yes, well, you see my beautiful hard hat behind me.
Yeah, let's see that hard hat.
Yes. I think I should put it on, It looks terrible, but it's exciting. This is my hard hat for when I go on site. So got to make sure I'm safe. Yeah, we are tripling in size. So we were able to raise enough money for the first part of the expansion, which is the biggest piece.
Okay.
We haven't raised the money for the whole part yet. So we're getting ready to enter the final frontier, the final phase. So what we'll be able to do in the fall is open to serve from 50 to 75. Well, we started at 50 kids and we're exploding at the seams in our house. It was too small, building was falling apart, and we had a 3-year wait list of kids on the front porch begging to come in. And we didn't have the capacity. Physically, we didn't have the capacity, and obviously we have to raise more money too. So what happened was we just said, okay, let's do it. Obviously the community is saying, there's a 3-year wait list for these programs. They're high quality. There's great, supportive, caring programs. Let's do this. So we started in 2016. We started raising money, and we all thought we were at our goal. We hit the $4 million that we thought we needed. And our general contractor that we had been engaged with the whole time decided they didn't want to do the project anymore.
Okay.
And said the costs had gone up, prices have gone up, and they were low on staffing. And we hadn't signed any contracts with them or anything yet, but they had been working with us. And so when we started getting new quotes, it was no longer 4 million. It was, the whole project was going to be more like 8 million.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And that was devastating because we thought we had done it. We had raised, we were at like 3.8. We were ready to break ground. We'd even broke ground with the fancy gold shovels and everything. And then realized, then the contractor's like, nope, we can't do it for this amount of money anymore. And instead of giving us a choice, they just backed out. Well, luckily we just got new bids out. We started fundraising again, and we raised 5.6 million.
Oh, wow.
Total. So we went from 3.8 to 5.6.
Okay.
And we realized we had enough to do the biggest piece of the expansion, which is kitchen cafe, 3 classrooms, computer lab, art room, and some meeting space.
Okay.
And so we were like, okay, we'll go ahead. And so moved from 50 to 75 kids into that building, into that expanded piece in the fall.
Okay.
What we didn't raise the money for yet, which was what we're still working on, is to actually renovate the center itself, the house part, and then add on rec, multi-purpose event space, and 2 more classrooms.
Okay. Wow.
And so, so we're looking at, another couple million, 2.6 for that ish. We're still getting some quotes on that last part. And the plan is we're going to keep going, and we're going to finish the whole project as soon as we possibly can. But we know in the fall we'll have, the biggest part of the expansion, which is the most, I would say, customized part, because it's, really what the community said they wanted as far as meeting space, classrooms, art. Like Royal Farms sponsored the kitchen and cafe. So we have the Royal Farms kitchen and cafe. We have Knott Foundation supported a couple classrooms. We have other big major donors that supported different pieces and parts of it, Weinberg and some others. So now, which has been great, the city as well, the state, but we had to fight for every penny. We had to work very hard for that. And what I think made that happen is that our programs are so good that people wanted to see us be able to serve more kids and families and be able to be part of those programs. So that's the plan. We will hopefully by 2022 into this final phase of building and have a campus on the corner of Linden and Whitelock.
Wonderful. That's actually really amazing. I love the fact that you're going to get the biggest piece, or I guess the piece that the community really said they wanted. That's the first piece that you're completing, and it'll be done in the fall. So that's actually wonderful that you were able to get that done.
Yeah, they wanted everything, of course. I mean, our kids wanted a hot tub. And I was like, I draw the line.
Come on, Come on, Christy, you said you respond to community needs if that's what they wanted.
They did. Our kids were like, can we have a hot tub? I'm like, I love you very much, but no. This is where I have to like.
No hot tub, no hot tub. You get a computer lab instead.
That is correct. And they wanted the computer lab and the art studio and all those great things. I mean, just to be known as a safe space is amazing. And then to have this innovative, creative, smart center, which it's more than just a smart building. It's about building a smart community and working on like different apps and STEM and coding and all these other things that we want to do with the computer lab and our work with, we're working with Hawkins and on some smart center ideas. So we're super excited to see where that could lead as well. So
okay,
it's a big deal. I mean, we could have put the rec space on first, right? But the classrooms are a priority. And then the rec space, then renovating. I mean, we're going to renovate the house as soon as we can too. But it was important to have our biggest programs supported by the space. And imagine trying to fit kids in a living room and in a kitchen and in a bedroom for their classrooms.
Absolutely.
And that's what we were doing, which is, the house is amazing. And the community didn't want to get rid of the house. They wanted to stay in that location and they wanted the house. It felt like home. It felt like community, which is great. But it's, just renovating the house alone, it's going to be like $1 million. So the ceiling was leaking on the kids' heads and plaster was falling in the kids' heads. Like it's time to,
it's time to do some, fundraising and get the place fixed up. But it sounds like it's going to be amazing once it's done in 2022.
I can't even wrap my head around it yet. Every time I drive by the center now and look at what is happening and look at the progress, and we ended up contracting with Whiting Turner, and they've just been phenomenal supporters and partners through the whole thing, even contributing to the project themselves. So we found the right people, the right partners. It just was a big setback when we thought we had made it and got there and raised the money and then realized no, and then honestly, to build during COVID is actually great. So now we don't have to be somewhere else. And we were in another school. We were at a school, one of our partner schools at Dorothy I. Height, just a couple blocks away. Before COVID, when we were getting ready for construction, but then when COVID hit, obviously we weren't, in the schools anymore. So.
Wonderful news. Well, so I want to actually focus a little bit on you now. Just curious, I know you mentioned earlier that you had joined SFNC in 2012. And so again, that was the year after Father Tom passed away. And so can you talk a little bit about what your life's journey was to SFNC and what were those first few months like?
Yeah, so gosh, I have a mixed background. So I have nonprofit and corporate background. And I mean, at one point I sold steel, but I also have a master's in theology, an undergraduate in speech communications. But I came to Baltimore from Ohio for Sylvan Learning Centers and learned about customized education and went from there to St. Francis Neighborhood Center, missed the nonprofit world. And because I'd had back and forth mixed in my history. Now I've been in the nonprofit world close to, over 20 years now. So, and just love it. But when I started, yes, it was tough. We had just gotten a state grant, but it's a reimbursed grant and we didn't have any money to even start. So we had to just instantly start fundraising. And it was a very difficult time. I would say the first probably 5 years was just, creating that, even though that we had an amazing foundation since 1963, we had to build the programs further. We needed to create more sustainability, better funding, better, support. And so that's what we did. So I just remember, we have pretty much an all new staff at this point too, because, we just started with a very small staff, and now we have a staff of 9 full-time people. I think when I started, we had 3 full-time, or 2 full-time and a part-time. It was just, we had to really grow and build a team. And so it's been interesting. And then when I started, and when I worked at Sylvan, I brought over Torben Green, who is now our operations and program director. He wanted to volunteer because I talked so much about it, and I'd worked with him at Sylvan. He started volunteering and loved it. And then he's still here. And I think that's kind of our little love scandal.
I do want to hear about that, the so-called scandal at SFNC.
It's so funny to talk about, but when Torben started, he started as a volunteer there. Like I said, we had worked together, and we'd met through Smaltimore Events, which is a company that he runs. He actually trademarked the name Smaltimore. So very, very Baltimore-based guy. And we started working together, and we realized we liked each other a lot. And so we had to go to the board of directors and be like, hey, we make a great team working together, but we also really like each other. And they said, well, we like you guys too. You guys do make a great team. And so we ended up getting married.
Oh, wow.
And so we've been married now 7 years. And the funny thing is when the kids, like any new kids come in, like if you saw us together, we're just working, right? People we're not holding hands and kissing.
Like, oh, those two are married, or those two are a couple.
We're not holding hands or kissing or anything like that. But all of a sudden, one of the kids will tell one of the other kids, oh, Torben, Miss Christi and Mr. Torben are married, and all of a sudden we're the big, scandal of the kids. And Torben and I will just laugh and be like, okay, whatever. And then it's over because there's no drama. There's no story there. Like, we're like, everybody knows, it's okay.
Well, at least for a brief period, you provide a little bit of scandal for the kids, and now they've moved on.
And every now and then a new kid will start, and they'll get wind of it and be like, oh. And we're like, yeah. Old news. But it's almost, I think, like when you see your teachers out in the regular world, not at school, and you're like, my teacher has a life.
They go grocery shopping? They're in my neighborhood? Like, what's going on?
Right? Yeah. Exactly. So yes. So our different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds brought us together, actually brought me to St. Francis Neighborhood Center. Like the fact that I have sold steel and worked as a co-manager in a grocery store, and worked for Sylvan and was executive director, of another nonprofit, and then worked for the Archdiocese of Cincinnati in Ohio for years. I mean, all those things collectively, I feel like brought me to St. Francis. And then, I needed all of those tools and skills and experience and education, because, as a small nonprofit, you have to do everything. You have to figure it out. You have to do the accounting and the bookkeeping and all. Luckily now we do a full financial, we started it right away in 2012. When I started, I'm like, okay, first thing, we got to raise the money to do a full financial audit. We got to make sure that we're fully transparent and disclose and make sure that and it was fine. And then we've just done one every year to make sure like we're growing and we're learning, and that if there's any changes in laws, I mean, being a nonprofit is hard. There's a lot of requirements and compliance, and then throw in COVID. I mean, it just quadrupled your compliance requirements,
Well, it sounds like, again, with your collective background, all the experiences you've had, it sounds like it's not only prepared you to come into SFNC, but also deal with challenges such as COVID.
For sure. And, I can't even wrap my head around, maybe in a couple years when this is all said and done, I can look back and be like, wow, how did we do that? Because I'm kind of saying that now. I mean, it's how do we do that? But and I really think with a small nonprofit, small but mighty, you really do have to be able to do a little bit of everything. I mean, I've cleaned up kids' puke. You gotta do what you gotta do.
That wasn't in your initial job description, I assume, Christi.
No. But I've cleaned it up many times. So it is what it is.
Maybe you can send Torben to go do that going forward.
Yeah. We have teen interns now, right?
Well, hopefully you're not having to clean up their puke.
No, maybe they can clean it up.
Yeah.
It's their job. No, not really. But that's part of being a nonprofit is you step in and you do what you got to do to make it successful. And you might know a little about a lot, which can be dangerous, but I think with a nonprofit, it's very it's good.
Absolutely. Well, Christi, thanks so much. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. And again, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you so much. This was great. And I appreciate your partnership. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And so if you'd like to learn more about the St. Francis Neighborhood Center, you can call them at 410-669-2612, or you can find them online at stfranciscenter.org. That's STFRANCIS center.org. And if you'd like to learn more about the Baltimore Community Mediation Center, which offers voluntary, confidential, and non-judgmental mediation services at no cost, you can call us at 410-467-9165 or find us online at communitymediation.org.